Hello everybody, and welcome back to Tony Northeastern, and I hope you're all keeping safe and well, and I hope you've all had a really wonderful Christmas. Today is Boxing Day. I've just come up here to assess the situation for my next project, but before we do that I need to give a shout out to Dillington's Model Railway. You've got to see his Christmas video. It is truly amazing. Well done, Dylan. Right, now then, in the last video we did not get a proper look at the station, so we're just going to have a quick tour, mainly on this side, platform 2, because we've got a train inconveniently parked in platform 1. So let's have a quick look at all the detail at ground level. Now this is the what I would call the money shot, because you can see all those wrought iron brackets right away along the platform, and that's what I was hoping to achieve all along. So let's have a quick look and see what we can see and what we can't see. Now we know we can't see anything in the gents, even though we know it's there, but we can see the gates on the lift, especially the far gates. And if we go this side, you can see the gates concertina it up to the left there behind that trolley. So the detail is there. So that lift there comes down to this lower level here, just to the right of those steps. You would imagine that's where the lift would come, where the porters would bring out all their letters and parcels to be picked up. Not this side, but at the other entrance, where it comes down as a ramp rather than a step, so that little trolleys can be wheeled all the way down up to the main road. And yep, so that's that. You can see a little flickering going on there above the door there, through that window. That's the fireplace flickering away. I mean, we can't even get the camera in close enough now that the canopy's on there, so that's hindering us. But then we've got the water fountain, and then we've got the refreshments room there. You can see the teddy boys there chatting up Doris. And then we've got Willie the window cleaner, and then we've got the central canopy underneath the, can we turn the camera up there? You can just about make out all the detail there. And we've got good old Charlie there, and we've got someone at the ticket office getting a ticket, and there's Grace, Sid's wife. Probably just dropped off his lunchbox that he forgot. Anyway, one final detail that I have added, which I didn't show you in the last video, is the dog's drinking bowl. So if I just zoom in there it is. Just come up a little bit, there we go. It's stuck to the wall, so that'll always be with the station. So yeah, it's just that little tiny detail for Sid's dog Ben. And then we just move along, we can see the ladies and the waiting room. And that's it. The station is, what I'm saying is, it's almost complete. I did weather this up a little bit with some powder rather than paint. Don't know if you can see that very well, but I have done that to that. Right, so today's project is the Loco Crews restroom, and looks like Billy Sparks and William Watts have been and move the lamppost for us. You'll have to be careful at that hole, watch anybody doesn't fall down through it, but yes. So that's what we're going to do next. We're just going to make up the Loco Crews restroom, I'm going to call it, because I got no idea what it was there for originally, that building. So let's go over the bench and we'll have a look at that restroom. And that's the building that's missing, this little building here, which I'm going to call the Loco Crews restroom. And yeah, got a couple of details we can pick out. The chimney stack, the window at the end, but we can't see if there's another window at the other side. But if you look along that line, is there a window there? I don't know, but we'll probably put another window in there as well. Other details is the air vent there up on the top of the ridge of the roof, so we can have a closer look at that if I can zoom in without. There we go. So it's got a conical shape on the top, so we could have a little closer look and maybe build and make one of those. The other photograph I've got, if we just move on, is this one here, which shows a three pane window, then a space, and you can just make a ridge there for maybe another set of 3 windows. But I think I'll only put 2 windows in. As you'll see in a minute, the size of the windows I've got, I don't think I've got windows as small as that. I think I've said this plenty of times before. Before we start designing or building, I'd like to make sure I've got the doors and windows prepped. These are the Wills Kits windows, and what I've done there is I've cut the frame of the bottom and stuck it on the bottom of the window there. What I mean by that is, here is a long window, and what I've done here is I have trimmed across those windows there, so I end up with 2 4 panes, and then cut these off and then glue that bit back on to create the sill like we have here. And that's what I'm doing now, just prepping my doors and windows. So the doors are just laser LC cut doors, and I'm just trimming the edges off and making them into a single door. Obviously, the more I look at this photograph, the more I see more details. We have the guttering, we have a drain pipe there. I thought that was another set of panelling there, between there and there, but it's not, it's a drain pipe. There's a concrete plinth along the bottom there, as you can see. And if we look closely up here, you've got one air vent, but just there you can make out a second air vent. So there must have been some heavy smoking going on in there to have 2 air vents in that little building. And this is my rough sketch of that hut. So I'm having 2 sets of windows here and 2 sets of windows there, and on the door side as well, I think I'll just have the door on its own. I don't think there would be any windows where the doors are. Yeah, but that might change as we're going along. So I shall now cut all my pieces and start fabricating this building. Moving on a little bit, I have now cut all the walls for this build, and I've changed my mind about the windows. I'm using these Smart Models LC09 because I think they fit and look exactly what's on the hut. And as you can see, I've put a 2mm strip along the bottom there, to act as a ledge or windowsill. So I'm putting 2 double windows in, like you've seen in the drawing, and a pair of singles by the chimney breast. Now, where the door is, this is the door piece that's pre-marked. I'm not sure if a window should go either side there. I don't think that looks quite right. So I might just put 1 in. Yeah, I think I'll go with that. I think I'll just put 1 in. Right, so now I shall mark out for the windows and doors and cut them out, and then I can then glue this together. So that's all the windows now glued in, and what I'm doing now, I'm just prepping for assembly. So what I'm doing is I'm putting some strips of card along this edge just to give the corners some strength, because the ends haven't been notched like we did with Tyne Dock. Remember, we notched the corners to go over the tops of these sides. So what we're doing here, we're just going to butt these up against the sides rather than notch them in, and so that gives it a good 2mm thickness there for gluing, and then that will just then butt up against there like so. I do enjoy the assembly of buildings, especially after doing all the prep, so this should go together quite well. So I should just leave that to stand. Let the glue do its job. Don't think I've ever made a hut this size with so many windows in it. Right, so we shall leave that to dry while we put the other one together. So as you can see, I've opted for the 2 windows by the door and the 2 windows by the chimney. Right, we shall leave them to set. I've placed the hut onto the platform just to give myself an idea of what it's going to look like in terms of scale. So I think that is just about right where that's sitting there now. So there's plenty of space between the lamppost and the door, and if we go around the back, there's plenty of space there for the chimney breast, which will be about 4mm. So that will just come back a little bit further, and yeah, so that looks about right. And as you noticed, I've put a slot in the back there. That's for the cables to run up through and into the roof of the hut. So we'll be putting a LED in there. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that that's looking so far. So it's back over to the bench. Now we're going to focus on the chimney breast, and I'm well ahead here. As you can see, I've glued 2 pieces of card together and made this to the drawing, which is 56mm in height to the first level of the chimney breast. Obviously it's got to go a little bit higher than that, according to the measurements I've took from the photograph. As you notice there, we have a groove. Now that groove fits over the end wall here, and hopefully the slots that I've made up the centre there marries up with the slots on the wall, and there's the hole for the cables to come through, which I've chiselled out through the card to meet up with that slot and groove. Yeah, and the fireplace was left over from the Tyne Dock build when I made too many fireplaces, so I've got to make a mantelpiece there, and we'll stick a little picture on there as well. And that, I think, is almost ready to glue on the inside. So if we just check to make sure that everything lines up, we need a millimetre off the floor. So we just need to push that home, have a millimetre off the floor, because we've got a fireplace to put in here, and hopefully all that grooves and everything meets up through this hole here. If you can see that, you can just see the slot on the end wall there. So that is ready to glue it in position, and we'll try and get that in the middle of the wall, because that's where it needs to be on the end. While we're on the subject of chimney breasts, that's where we're up to at the moment there. That's where it finishes off. So what I'm doing now is I'm counting the bricks, and there's 11 bricks from that point to that point, so that's 11 millimeters. So if you, for argument's sake, say that's another 2 bricks, and that's another 3 bricks, so that's 11, 12, 13, so that's 18 millimeters up to that point there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make that stack there, 18 mils up to that point, and use 11 mils worth of brick, and I'll use some plastic strip to make that cornice round there, and then we'll just leave that black, and I think we'll have a unique chimney there. Now then, while we're looking at this photograph, I've noticed something across here. Now that's on the main building. Now that's an air vent, possibly above the gents, so maybe that's something else I can look into while we're still in the Tyne Dock area. Make this up to go above the gents. It wouldn't be too hard to do, just make something and then just glue it on, so that's not a problem there. So yeah, so I'm just counting bricks at the moment and looking at this again. There possibly is 2, but I'm just going to think about making 1 vent, because that's smack in the middle of the roof there, so I'm not sure what that is there behind the chimney. So yeah, plenty to think about as we're moving along with this build. And here's that chimney stack we've just been looking at. Judging by the bricks, it's 2.5 bricks across. That works out at 6.5 mils square, and I've made this slightly longer as well by about 2 millimeters to allow for sanding. It's 3 strips of 2 mil card there. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to put some super glue around this top corner, hoping it will absorb into the card so we can sand it down. At least put a chamfer on here like we have in the photograph. Now I know how absorbent this card can be, so we'll just leave that to dry and absorb into the card, and then I can sand that down to shape that we have seen in the photograph. After a lot of measuring and working out the angles of the dangles for wrapping the brick card around this chimney breast, this is what it looks like before it goes onto the chimney breast. As you can see, there's a lot of working out there. The 13 mil to start with, and then wrapping it round the top at 10 mil with a 4 mil overlap there. So this is ready to be glued on. I've already done a dry fit just to make sure that it does fit, and we're ready to go. It's it's interesting working out all these different angles just to try and get the card to wrap around as best as it can with the least amount of cuts, as it were, to try and get everything to line up. Obviously I've got to put two little pieces in there and there where the angles are, but hopefully with a little bit of touch-up paint we won't be able to recognise that there was a cut there at all. So we could just start there, make sure it's flush with the bottom before we press home. And we got a little bit of a manipulation, but not a lot. Once that's on there, it's flush with the bottom, and that's nice sharp crisp edge there. So just make sure we're flush with the top now. I mean, it's going to be painted, that card's going to be painted anyway, so if we see a little bit of card it'll just look like cement once it's painted, and that should then fit in there like so. And then we'll just put a little bit more glue around the top half of the chimney. It's like when you're measuring up for this kind of thing, you've got to do it backwards, if you know what I mean. It's like a mirror image, so that when it does all go together, it fits. So it just goes there, and hopefully it will get the joints to marry up in the middle. There we go. So that's the brickwork done. To finish off the brickwork completely, it's just a case of cutting a 4mm strip, which we have here, and then what we'll do, we'll just cut that to fill it in, that little gap there. As you can see, we've got, still see the card there, but that little strip there will fill in that card nicely. So we'll just, now that super glue is dried on the stack, we can now sand the stack. I just want to take off just a millimetre all the way around, leave a millimetre square all the way around, take that off. That should leave enough in the centre for the chimney pot itself, so we'll just take that down. I think that's all I need to do to that. If you look on end view there, you can see that there is a chamfer there, and once that's painted black like it is in the photograph, I think that'll look pretty good. So the next thing to do is to surround the lower half with the 11 bricks, put a bit of plastic card around, or plastic strip around the upper part of the bricks, and then put in a chimney pot. Then we can then glue that onto there like so, and that looks huge on there, as you can see, but it's the exact measurements as it is in the photograph. We need to secure this stack to the chimney breast, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a cross in the centre of this chimney breast, and then drill a hole for a toothpick, and here it is already pre-cut, so half of this will go into the stack and the other half will go into the breast. Bear in mind I can only go down so far because of the cables coming through there, so that's what I'll do there. Now that the hole's drilled, I'll just put some super glue into the hole and then put the toothpick into the hole. Make sure you got enough in there, because this card, as you know, is very absorbent. And then that now is ready for gluing into the stack, but I've got to drill the hole yet, so we'll just pop a hole into the stack. Do a trial fit first, make sure it's going to go in the middle, and then once you're happy with it, we can glue it in. Moving on a little bit, I have now completed the chimney. This cornice, if you like, that goes around the chimney breast on top of the brickwork is made from some plastic styrene strip. 2mm by 0.5 is the base strip, as you can see there, and then quarter round 1mm and some 1mm rounds, and that gives it the shape that's unique around the chimney there. So waiting for that to dry, and then we can paint that. Now that that's done, we can focus on the inside. I've lit the fire inside of the hut to keep the Loco Crew roasty toasty, as it were, especially now we're in the midst of winter. And I've also added some strengthened bits of card there on the gable end, because there's quite a bit of weight there in that chimney breast and a stack, and as you can see I just could not help but paint the chimney pot and the adjoining concrete stump there that the pot sits on, and also I painted the cornice there in a matte 28, so I'm just waiting for that to dry, and then I can weather it a little bit, make it a little bit darker. And yeah, so that's where we are. Now the next thing I need to do is to paint all the windows white, and I've noticed in the photographs that the lower window panels are painted out here on all of them. So I'm wondering if that's to stop the passengers looking in, probably, I'm not sure. But anyway, I'll be doing the same. I'll be painting out all these little lower windows once the glazing is fitted. But yeah, so that's the next thing. Paint all the window frames bright white, and then we can start painting the inside. This is what I mean about the lower windows have been painted out, as you can see there. So we shall move on to the next photo. You can't quite see what's going on with those windows, but I'd imagine they'd be painted out white as well. Looks like they are. Or that could just be a reflection of light. But I think I will do that. I'll paint all the lower window panes white. While I'm waiting for the paint to dry on the hut around the window frames, I thought I'd make a start on the roof supports. Here we have a piece of 2mm card, and I've super glued a LED into the card, but only around the flange here and not on the lens, as you can see. And once this is glued into the hut, I will then glue 2 supports onto the top of this card, and I'll give it extra support in the middle of the hut. So that's where we are. And the other thing I want to do at the same time as the paint is drying is make up the base for the hut, which is going to be made out of 2mm card as well. So here is the concrete base. As you can see, I've been adding a few details to it. We have the rug, which came from a signal box kit, and we've got a couple of chairs there which I've made from 2mm card and 1mm card, and we also have a table here with a clock on it and also a baby Burko for hot water, so the Loco crew can have a cup of tea while they're waiting for their next shift. I think that's all the detail I'm going to put inside this hut, but I'm not sure what else would have been inside a restroom for the Loco crew. Probably more tables and chairs, but yeah, anyway, that's the detail I'm going with. So I shall paint these up, and then I shall glue the hut to the base. And here's what the base looks like now. It's all painted. The clock, and I've also stuck a couple of figures there on the chairs. So I think now that is ready to go into the building. All the bits you see here are made from scratch, except for this clock, which came out of a signal box kit, and hence why that's there. But this Burko is made from bits of plastic and a little tiny piece of copper wire for the tap. Right, so that is ready to go into the building. Now the building itself, I've only painted these 2 sets of windows on the lower panes only, because I want to make sure we can see everything in the building once it's all together. So that now can be glued onto the base. Like so. Right, so that's the base on and the LED fitted. The room does look a little bit empty, but when you turn it round to this side, you can see the table and everything at the back there. So yeah, I think we're going to see more detail in this room than you would do in any other rooms that I've done, but there's a lot less of it. So I might stick something in that far corner, maybe make up another seat or something. But yeah, I think I'll do that. Yep, you've caught me at it again. I'm scribing card, putting the tiles on. Now this card is 1mm thick, so it's a little bit different than using the Medcalf card, because I'm more or less doing these tiles freehand. And I think we get a better impression made with a pen doing it this way, but we shall see. Only when we put the paint on we shall know. So what we'll do now is we can fold that, because I've already pre-scored that, so we can fold it. Then we can offer it up onto the building and see how much we need to cut out here for the chimney breast. This is how I mark out for my roofs. especially to cut round the chimney breast here. So what I've done, I did the initial measurement, 2.5mm overhang on both edges here and on the other side. So what we'll do now, we'll just measure that there, and that's going to give me roughly on 7.5mm to come off of the card, which will bring the card this way, and I'll still get my 2.5mm overhang. So I've pre-marked it either side with a red pen, and I'm just going to come back from this face 7mm. Right, so I've notched the card out, 7.5mm in the end, and we've ended up with a 2.5mm overhang here and here. So all I need to do now is add a little bit of fascia on both ends of this hut to finish it off, and then we can start to paint this building. We have now made a little bit of a start on painting the building. So I've gone round twice with the gloss white on the top half of the building, and now I'm just going around the lower half of the building in this blue that I've made up. This will probably need 2 coats as well. Something I've noticed as I'm painting this building is I seem to recognise where I've seen these before, or a building similar to this before, and that's on the North Yorkshire Moors Railway at Grosmont, where they've done their buildings in blue and white, which represent I think it's the 1960s, I think. And yeah, so that's where I've seen this colouring before. Well, not only in the photograph, but for real. So the blue I'm using is a blue 48 gloss, and I've just put a tiny bit of white in to tone it down a little bit. Like I said, I think I've got to go around this building twice just to try and hide those pen marks, because they are quite deep, and as you know, this card is very absorbent. But yeah, I thought I'd mention that because it's interesting now that I'm starting to decorate the building. Yeah, because in the photograph it's blue and white, and so I thought I'd keep the same colours, and that's the bit we only see, this face, and maybe a little bit down that side, but that's in black and white, that photograph, but must have been taken around about the same time. And now for the final detail I'm going to add to this hut is the vent that sits on the top, like so. And what I'm using so far to make this is 2 different lengths of tube, 7.1mm diameter, part number 229, and 5.5mm diameter 227. Now, I didn't make a drawing for this, but I can tell you the sizes. The bigger tube is 5mm, and the longer tube, which sits inside, so it's a perfect fit, is 7mm, but it only overhangs by 5mm, as you can see there. And so smaller tube fits neatly inside, and I've just glued that together, pre-cut it to get the right angle. I still need to sand a bit more off this side like I just said, and for the conical piece that sits on the top, I've stuck together some paper. You can see the joint there. So what I've got to do now is trim this down to a smaller fitting size, which I think needs to come down to about 7mm in diameter. So I've got a millimetre overhang either side. So I've got to work out where that is. So firstly I'm just going to cut that at 6mm from the tip and draw that all the way around, and then cut that down until I get the perfect fit to go on there. That looks right. So, and this is how the air vent is looking now. As you can see, I've super glued a really tiny ball bearing on the top, and once that's painted white with the rest of the plastic strut, I think that will be a good representation of an air vent. So yeah, we're almost coming to the end of this build. You see, we've got the downpipes and guttering on, and yeah, just got to paint the roof now and paint the air vent, and it's job finished. I'm just adding the finishing touches to this hut. I'm painting the air vent now in a gloss white, as it is in the photographs. So I'm just, where I've just newly painted the roof, I've got to be very careful not to touch the grey, otherwise it'll smudge on the white. And otherwise I'll have to do the whole thing again, so I'm being very, very careful here. So yeah, it's been an interesting little build, this. Just got to paint inside there where I've painted the black as always, so I'm just putting the white stripes back in. I think this will be in my top 10 next year on best builds. Definitely such a unique little building. Right, so we're back over at Tyne Dock, and what I've done here is I've filled in 2 holes. This is where the lamppost was originally, and this is where we moved it to. Right, and I've now decided to move the lamppost again, at least half of this distance between there and the building. So I'm going to put the lamppost just about there to get it away from where the hut is going to go, as you can see. Now, the interesting part is how I filled the holes in, which is really, really quite simple. Is I've got a Q-tip, cut the tip down where my thumb is, dip all of this Q-tip into some super glue, and then whack it into the hole, and then this will go rock hard, and then all I've got to do then is just sand that flat and then paint it, and you'll never know there was a hole there. So I just found out this by accident. So just a little tip for you, fill in those holes. After filling the hole in, I have put everything back. So I've decided to keep the lamppost and the name sign. I've still got a little bit of work to do there. That's just loose at the moment. I've still got to glue that down in place. But yeah, so I'm quite happy with the way that everything's turning out in this area. And as for that hut, I think yeah, it doesn't look overcrowded in that area now. I think the size is right. I could have made it smaller, but I think And for what it is, and judging by the photographs, I think I've got that near enough as good as. So can we see any of the detail inside? Well, we can make out the clock and the tea urn over the far side. We can make out a matey's head there nearest to us, and there's two guys sitting there by the fireplace keeping warm. And I did manage to put a bucket on the fire hearth just before I put the roof on. But thinking back now, I wish I'd put a proper lamp in there to light up the doorway, but then again you've got all that light coming from the windows, so maybe they've just turned it off. So let's have a quick look around the other side. So this is what it looks like around the other side. There's not a lot to see. I don't know what we can see through those windows. I don't know if you can see matey boy sitting on the chair at the far end. I think we can. So yeah, I think I was right not to paint the lower windows all the way around. Anyway, this is the money shot that kind of matches the photograph. I mean, if that small platform wasn't there, you would think I have got that pretty close. Yes, so I can officially say that the station is now complete, the Tyne Dock area that is. There's not a lot left to do. I got the little job of straightening up that lamppost, but that's a 2-minute job with a little bit of super glue. But yeah, we can move on. Hello again. That Crews Rests hut finishes off 2024 nicely, because then it leaves me with a blank page for 2025. I think that's the first time it's ever happened, because normally my projects roll on, but this year we seem to have finished Tyne Dock bang on time. Right, I think what's left for me to say is thank you very much for everybody who has watched, liked, I'm not going to mention the subscribe word, to the channel. It's great hearing from you, and without your voices in the comments, well, I wouldn't be lost, but it does give me the motivation to keep me going, and I think every YouTuber will say the same thing. Now, 2025, believe it or not, come August, will be 10 years for me on YouTube. 10 years. 2015. 2015 was the first video I've ever put up. It was only a couple of minutes long, just to say, here's my timber, there's my thing, let's get on with it and build a railway. Here we are, 10 years on, and we've got this in front of us. And yeah. And what's good, the view that you're seeing now makes a lot of difference with that station there finished. I mean, when I used to look across, I used to think, nah, that's not Tyne Dock, that's not how it should be. But then again, that's me all over. I'm never happy with it all done. I always try to do that a little bit more. Try to do that a little bit better, try and find a little extra detail to put into the buildings, and I'm glad I'm inspiring people to do that sort of thing. Build things for yourself. I get emails, messages saying, oh, look what I've made in my Facebook page, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. That's what the hobby's all about, sharing our experiences. Right, yes, I think that's all from me for now. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. I hope you've taken something from today's video, and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2025. Bring it on, as they say. Happy New Year, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.